SNP spokesperson Alison Thewliss.
Mr. Speaker, it is hard to know where to start with this complete and utter drivel. This minister comes here today proud of this tawdry, pathetic, self-defeating piece of fascist nonsense. The Tories, they don't like it, but Mr. Speaker, it is true. And I will explain to them why. Because the Home Office have put out Mr. Speaker, they don't like the truth. The Home Office has issued a promo video this morning of people being detained, and it absolutely turns my stomach. A government that glorifies its state-sponsored people trafficking plans as it cuffs people and takes them out their beds to be sent to another country against their will. It is sickening, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these plans are damaging to our society, to our economy, to the people who need care, to the people who want to love, live and study here. Universities are up in arms about their cuts to student numbers. It makes absolutely no sense. The draft rules that the government have issued on adults and risk in immigration detention were released this week. But instead of action on the very serious recommendations of the Brookhouse inquiry, the Home Office is instead doubling down on their policy of indefinite detention. And Labour are going along with all of this. Shame on them. Mr. Speaker, far from what the Minister said, small boat arrivals are up this year. Rwanda is no deterrent because none of the other policies that they have had have proved as a deterrent. And the thousands of people who they want to send have disappeared, never to be seen again. And who can really blame them, Mr. Speaker, if they're going to be plucked from their beds and taken away by ministers and sent to countries against their will? Indeed, who can blame them? And the risk also is that these people will end up being exploited because they have gone into hiding. They will be exploited, they will be trafficked, they will be vulnerable. Why is the Minister not acknowledging the impact that this policy will have on vulnerable people? And finally, Mr. Speaker, if it is indeed the case that the person that they sent to Rwanda has not been granted refugee status in this country, why are they not being returned to their country of origin? Is it perhaps that that country is actually unsafe? And if that is true, why weren't they given refugee status here in the first place?
Well, what I would say, Mr. Speaker, is that it's perfectly respectable as a position to want to protect our borders. It is right and proper to want to ensure that we have a fair and balanced system of legal migration that is sustainable. And I make absolutely no apology whatsoever, and nor will this government or any of the ministers in the Home Office, for placing front and centre the determination to protect people's lives. We have seen too many lives lost in the Channel at the hands of what are evil criminal gangs who take people's money, exploit them, send them in unseaworthy vessels out to sea with no regard whatsoever for human life. And candidly, beyond that, I'm not going to edify it with anything further.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Joanna Cherry. When I was first elected to this House, we often debated safe and legal routes, but we don't hear very much about that anymore. Many of my constituents are writing to me wanting a family reunion scheme for their relatives in Gaza. I recently co-authored a report with Helena Kennedy recommending that United Kingdom government have a humanitarian visa for women in Afghanistan and Iran. Can the Minister tell me, do the government have any plans to announce any safe and legal routes before the next general election?
Minister. The position is that, and I'm sure that the honourable and learned lady has followed this closely, that through the Illegal Migration Act, we made a commitment, and that was reflected in the legislation, to come forward and publish the cap and the statutory instrument that sits alongside that, which will support our efforts to be able to provide resettlement opportunities in this country for people in the years ahead. That work is on track. We will deliver on that commitment, and I'll be able to say more in due course.
Anne McLoughlin.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, my 21-year-old Springburn constituent, Abdullah Salimi, was detained. And he was then taken from Scotland to England, a 10-hour journey, I suspect because in Scotland you get legal aid, so he'll have legal representation. Now he has none. He was taken on a 10-hour journey, given no water, no food. Is that right? Is that acceptable? What's the reason for that? He had his phone taken off him, so he couldn't contact anybody, couldn't tell anybody. Is that right? Is that acceptable? What is the reason for that? And also, no, I'm not finished. I went to the Home Office this morning. I emailed the Home Office last night. They refused to give me any information. I went with this letter for one of his colleagues, and they refused to take the letter. I am his MP. I have got the right to know what is going on in his life and the right to try to represent him. Why am I being denied that, and why is he being denied the rights that you enjoyed at the age of 21?
I would make the point that I am a British citizen who is in this country legally, and the fact is, it is right. Now, if the Honourable Lady allows me to just finish the point, it is entirely right and proper that people are detained on a legal basis for the purposes of removal under this policy. But there are always safeguards around that. I will very gladly accept the letter from the Honourable Lady and ensure that it reaches the right destination within the Home Office, and we will, of course, in the normal way, look very carefully at any concerns that she wishes to raise. I recognise that she is entirely opposed to the policy objective that we are seeking to advance. There is a principled disagreement there. She thinks I'm wrong. I think that she is wrong about this. But on those specific points, if she'd like to share them with me, I will gladly ensure that she receives a full response.
Carol Monaghan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Minister has said that numbers applying for skilled worker, health and care and study visas are down 24%, and astonishingly he's proud of this. International students bring massive economic benefit to the UK. In my constituency alone, it's worth £83 million per annum. Wow. They're also highly mobile. Now, if the graduate route is closed, we lose out economically, but more importantly, our businesses lose skills and the ability to develop and expand. So can the Minister confirm today that there are no plans to close the graduate visa route?
Minister.
She presents the government's position in a inaccurate, I would argue, and disingenuous light. The fact is that we want to see a balanced approach to migration. We do believe that the position around dependence was not sustainable. She will also recognise that there is a proper process which is ongoing in relation to the graduate route. The Migration Advisory Committee are looking at that route, looking at the data, taking representations, and will report in the proper way to the department, and ministers will then take decisions around those recommendations, taking full account of the facts and having proper conversations within government about the right way forward. But it's entirely right that we wait for the Migration Advisory Committee's findings.
Deidre Brock.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can the Minister explain what will happen to the over 115,000 people the Refugee Council estimates can't be removed to Rwanda or returned to their home country after the Illegal Migration Act of 2023? Does he accept that those people stuck in limbo will likely be reliant on Home Office support or go underground?
Minister.
I'm not going to get into the operational specifics of the work that is ongoing to operationalise the Rwanda policy. We are clear that there is a basis upon which we can send people to Rwanda for the purposes of relocation, with the ultimate objective of putting the evil criminal gangs out of business who are responsible for bringing people here. But we of course work cohort by cohort, and we take appropriate decisions for individuals according to the relevant circumstances that are relevant in each specific case.